I would recommend when something like that happens that they go to the nearest adult immediately, because if students are feeling like they're being bullied, then if an adult gets involved right away, it's the quickest way to put a stop to the behavior that's going on at that time.
When do you recommend students coming to you?
If they feel like they've explained it to another teacher, or they went to a teacher right away and then they feel like nothing is being done about it, or if it's continually happening and the other adult that they've told, or it's happening when there's not adults around. I try to gather as much information as I can from the student that is feeling like he's being bullied. And then if there's other witnesses that may be friends of his that he knows are around, then I can take the opportunity to talk with them and find out what they're observing of the situation. I could look at the student's schedule and see what the teachers may be noticing that happens in their class, how they see that student interacting with other students, if they perceive that student being a victim, a typical type of victim of bullying. And then if it seems like there's a situation that the bullying victim and the student exhibiting the bullying behavior feel or were friends before, then we can see if there was some breakdown in the friendship that caused this type of behavior. And sometimes if students have been friends in the past, then they have a little more ammunition sometimes, and it's easier to hurt someone that you know well. And then if it seems necessary to have them both sit in together, and we feel like that's a safe environment, sometimes that can really help clear the air, because there may be a misunderstanding simply between the two. The one student may not know that his behavior seems aggressive or hurtful toward the student that feels bullied. And if we're able to address the situation in a calm way with both students, then it can go a long way in resolving that issue right away. If it's something where the bully or student exhibiting the bullying behavior shows no remorse or doesn't feel like what he's done is wrong, then I can take some time to meet with that student on a regular basis and try to explain how his behavior is perceived by others and why it's concerning that he may be acting that way. Bullying by the state is defined as something that happens repeatedly. So if it was just a one-time occurrence, then technically that wouldn't be bullying. But if it's something that happens repeatedly, then it's going to be classified as bullying. And if there's that power imbalance between the two students where one is perceived to have more power than another, that's another example of what bullying would be. If it's just normal conflict, that may be an accident. Someone may have bumped into somebody in the hallway because in a middle school hall there's a lot of kids moving back and forth. So sometimes things can be accidental. If it's definitely on purpose and the same behavior is repeated, then that's going to be classified as bullying. And with the social and relational, sometimes the students themselves don't realize the reach that the school has now because of state legislation. So if they're using Facebook or Twitter or text messages, we can confiscate the phones, we can request records to be able to find out what is going on and if it's a bullying issue or if it's normal peer conflict. Lately, in the last few years, just of how bullying victims have responded, and unfortunately that has resulted in the death of students. It's resulted in a lot of very serious legal or criminal matters that these students that had been bullied finally respond, but it's either in someone being shot or in themselves committing suicide. So I think it's just the impact. Impact's not really the term I want to use. More just how it's been in the news lately, and the reports that students who do shootings at schools or students that have committed suicide, then it comes out later that the result of that was they felt bullied in the school system, or they felt like they had no other support system, and that was the only way to respond, that was the only way out. Sometimes don't realize is they may feel like nothing is being done about the situation. They feel like they've told an adult or they've told someone in the school system, and they don't feel like anything has been done about it. And there's a lot of times where we're not allowed to divulge what it is that we've been doing because of laws and because of confidentiality. So there is things going on behind the scenes that students may not know are taking place. But I would talk with the student, I would counsel the student, refer outside of the school system to some of our community partners like the Hamilton Center, and those places that can provide counseling for students that may feel like they're in that situation. As a male, from my perspective, I remember when I was young, sometimes I would be what I would consider bullied by other students, and at the time it wouldn't have been labeled bullying, but it was more how guys just interact. It's part of growing up as a boy because you cut on each other, and that kind of makes you stronger. Because we have such a loss of the male figure in today's family, I believe that it's been, the bullying has kind of taken on a new face, because from the male side of things, they don't have that same father figure where they're learning how to grow up to be men, and it's kind of that macho side that we have. So sometimes it gets misconstrued because we don't understand that that's just part of how guys interact. And it's important to then educate the student exhibiting the bullying behavior so that he can realize, you know, you may want to be a little bit more cautious about what you're saying and trying to think about how another student may take that. And then from the bully, or from the student that feels like they're being bullied, they may want to understand that sometimes that can just be the normal back and forth between guys and how we create friendships. And one thing that's important to, you know, that my training tells me, even though that I'm not a girl, but as I'm trained to help female students, is that everything kind of blends together with girls. So one thing that's affecting them emotionally is going to affect their schoolwork, and it's going to affect them outside of school, and it's going to affect the relationships they have with one another. It's going to affect the way that they interact with their teachers or other adults here at the school. And so helping them understand how to focus on what the problem might be at the time and not all the personal things that are going on outside of that can go a long way in helping them resolve their concerns. And oftentimes it is a good opportunity to bring the girls in that are having conflict with each other into the office together, because a lot of times they're able to kind of vent and talk it through, and then by the time they're finished, they're usually leaving as friends again. One of the things that I try to encourage us to develop here is, because so many students come from broken homes, or they have situations in their lives that make things not safe, we want Woodrow Wilson and we want the Vigo County Schools to be that safe place for our students. We want them to feel comfortable coming here and feel like they're supported. And as teachers and as administrators, we come together to try to make sure that the school is a safe place for our students.